there was no such thing as a crash, but I was lucky. Because I remember one Valentine's night, I had a guard in the house minding my kids. I had a guard outside walking up and down minding the house. And they arrested a pimp who had come over from London to kill me. Because I was quite, when I think of it, quite mad. I decided it was unfair that prostitutes should have to pay their pimp out of the money they earned. And I encouraged two of them to give me their money instead. And I put it in the building society for them. Now, when I look back, I'd be dead now. Like, they wouldn't even, at least they used to send me bullets through the post. But they just fucking kill you now. And that'd be the end of it. So this guy came over from London to kill me. So I had a guard in the house minding the kids, and they arrested him down the canal. And he was remanded to Mountjoy. So I went up to visit him, as you would. And I remember the lack of logic in the conversation I had with him. I said, "Johnny, you fractured her skull." And he said, "No, I didn't. I punched her in the face. She didn't fracture her skull till she hit the ground." I said, "Oh, fucker, I knew I had it wrong." You know, and that's what you're up against. You know, they talk about trying to get rid of prostitution. Prostitution has been around as long as people have been around. And that's terribly sad. And I remember, I'll tell you one story, like, why I got involved with these things. When Marion Finucane was a young girl, she came into Guy's restaurant one night. She was trying to get her first item published, and she was going to do an article on prostitution. She'd gone down the canal, and they threatened to throw her into the canal. So she came up and was very depressed. And married Guy at Guy's restaurant said, "Frank," now Marion was only in her teens, I'd say at the time, late teens, said, "Bring her down and get her an interview with the women." And when I went down, the women came over to the car, and I said, "Come on, you're going to give it." So and I noticed one was hiding behind someone. And I heard someone say, "That's okay, that's Crummey. He's okay." And next he said, "She's embarrassed because she knows you." And it turned out it was a neighbour's child. And that brought home to me that every one of these women was someone's baby. And if they're going to earn their living on the streets, they should be entitled to protection and to keep their money. Because I'm not going to change the world. I tried a few times and it didn't work. But as I go into my old age, there are so many other things I would love to campaign for. I would love to campaign for the right to voluntary euthanasia, the right to die with dignity if you have a right to live with dignity. And when I hear, as I debated with Professor Clinton O'Toole at the theologian Maynooth on this, how dare they tell us that we have no right to make decisions about our own life and our own death. So when I've gone off the book, I tried to cover everything in the book. My problem in doing the book was not what to put into it to pad it out, but what I had to leave out for several reasons. One, I'd been there forever, and two, there were stories that should have gone into the book, but would have been so outrageous that people wouldn't have believed them, and it would have discredited other parts of the book. Enjoy the book. I hope it'll encourage you to become social activists, because we need them, particularly with the country as it is in today. Everything from laying sewers to building to postman, milkman, soldier, taxi driver, private investigator, social worker, civil servant, and eventually I ended up a lawyer. Now, I remember as a social worker working for the ISPCC, and I had a terrible run-in with them because of their discrimination. They had me visiting homes to see the children weren't being abused in the home, but they didn't give a damn what was happening to the children in the convents, and I did. And I was warned several times, and then I was sacked. And the reason they gave me for being sacked was quite interesting. They didn't have to give me a reason, but they did. It was inconsistent for a good social worker to be involved in family planning. So it was an honour to be sacked by the ISP.
Your opinion on that?
Well, first of all, as a person who's been, I helped another fellow to set up the first refuge for battered wives in Ireland. And again, I'm very proud of that. And I've done free legal work for the Women's Refuge for over 20 years now. I am amazed that more women haven't killed their husbands, regardless of whether it's a crime or not. And they talk about, women also abuse their husbands.
Yeah.
And I accept that. And I did a case for a husband, and I had his wife barred for life. I also did another one where I had her barred for a year. But it is infinitely minute compared with the reverse situation. And also, if my wife attacks me, I have a much better chance of fending her off than a woman has if a man attacks her.
Apart from the law, the authorities in the general society were so conditioned that they didn't give the support to the women.
Sorry, you did?
Apart from the law and all
Yeah.
that, the general society was so conditioned, and you might say brainwashed, that they didn't give the support to the women.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only that, but depending on your area in which you live, will depend on the Garda station that's dealing with you. And some Garda stations have a very active attitude to domestic violence, and some haven't. It's as simple as that. And we've got to change that. And the guards, but more important, not only the guards, but the judges. You see, when the judge is appointed a district judge tomorrow, he might never have done one family law case in his life. And he might be sent down to Dolphin House and you're doing family law. As a result, you got crazy situations. I remember going into court one day and we were looking for sole custody for a mother of 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And a very nice judge, actually, who was just due on the bench, he's now more experienced, he heard the evidence and he decided that the 2 girls would go with the mother. And the evidence there was quite frightening, but he still maintained the boy needed a man's influence. So he awarded custody of the boy to the father. And I went into him 2 days later and asked him to vacate his order that the child was now in intensive care. Now the poor judge nearly died, and it was a big lesson to learn. But they must be, and they're not, and they should be specially trained.
Jennifer Preston. I grew up on just over the north side, near the Five Lamps. I married into the south side. And when I was growing up, there was the north side, south side sort of battle as such. But it was all done by anecdote, by jokes. In your book you make some reference to the south side being different. Was it more than just anecdotal, or how did you find when you crossed the river to your other granny?
Well, there definitely was a difference. I mean, there was this sarcasm, like my grandmother on the south side beside Brazen Head, she had a very, very dark sense of humour, and my other grandmother on the other side as well, they were always like, at each other, it was sarcasm really, that they, like from a child's perspective, I wouldn't know what sarcasm is, but I knew later on that that's what it was. They'd be they'd be saying things about each other that they couldn't have been true, you know what I mean? They were, there definitely was something, but it's hard to is it kind of an abstract thing,
Yeah, I just wonder whether it was any different then than it is now. Now it's all, you couldn't imagine gangs from the north side going over and battering fellas from the south side, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Now they just do it between the different,
I
on the one
suppose
side,
because
whatever.
I lived right on the banks of the Liffey on both sides, and we were right beside the Liffey. We couldn't have been, the 2 sets of flats couldn't have been any closer to the actual river. So that we were very, very close. We could have been either, certainly, from my
I think you should have a passport for crossing over.
I was constantly coming and going, across the river all the time,
And I earn my living on the north side of the Liffey in the forecourts and the family courts. So.
Yeah, well, the flats in Greek Street are right next to the forecourts.
The Bridewell and the markets.
Jennifer, could I just say that my mother-in-law came from Windsor, And she used to always tell me, and I'm an outsider, she used to always tell me that when she walked over the bridge she felt really weird, very strange.
She felt different.
Yeah, different.
At the school up the hill. School was like-
Yeah. George's Hill.
Yeah.
George's Hill there. It's just, it's right beside the fruit market.
In King's Inn is another school.
Yeah. King's Inn will be more up King Street, but George's Hill, I have a chapter on the school on the hill. Yeah, it's a great history to the school, you know. It was run by the presentation order.
Where did you go from there then?
Yeah, I went not very far, not for very long. I left there when I was 13 and I went to a tech. It was called Parnell 1 Tech down on Parnell Street. And it was supposed to be for girls who wanted to learn the rag trade.
I was in there.
Were you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd no more interest in learning the rag trade. It was just, the school age was 14, so you weren't supposed to leave. And I was already after being up in court. I was in the children's court when I was 13. And I was, you know, I was terrified. Like, it was my first time in the children's court, but I used to have this fear hanging over me that we'd be sent away to Dangan or Letterfrack or Artane, you know. And, well, I suppose because it was a first offence, I probably got off for a warning, you know. But it wasn't actually, my mother used to actually keep me out. It wasn't really Mitchell as such, you know.
She needed your
But
help.
I was happy enough, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't a great one for school, so that was where I was hiding in the wardrobe some days, you know. But it caught up on me with the school inspector, and that's how I ended up there.
Do you think anything much has changed really since those days gone by? That it seems now even only working class people get sent to prison.
Well, we all know what that's like at the present moment.
Yes.
Had the right people been going to prison, they'd be packed. But yeah, women have certainly, and don't forget that it's very important to remember this, that any social change brought about will always be brought about, for women for instance, will always be brought about by the middle class. And that goes right back to the suffragettes, when it was the middle class and the poshies that had the time and the energy, but the honesty and the goodness to see it was wrong. And in many ways, I was the odd man out in that. And I'll give you an example. When I was involved in the feminist movement and in opening the refuges and that, Nuala Fennell, a fantastic lady, it was her idea. And she was in the feminist movement. But the two of us stood out like sore thumbs for one reason. Nuala would always say in conversation, I must tell Brian about that when I go home. Meaning her husband, whom she loved dearly. And I would be saying, I must tell Evelyn about that. And the other pair of fucking idiots. Because we were the only ones with partners at that time. You know, and Nuala Fennell, remember, came from Fox Rock. And in some way she didn't fit into the group we were in until the first night. We opened the first refuge in Harcourt Street. And I arrived in a red lorry with the mattresses. And we were dragging the mattresses up the stairs and you were placing them along the floor. And the only place they had for the personal belongings were in between the mattresses. But as we were going up the stairs, we saw a pair of high heels sticking out of a toilet. And it was Nuala Fennell scrubbing the dirtiest toilet you've ever seen. And Nell turned to me and she said, Frank, she's fucking one of us. Do you know what I mean? And so